Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. I've got very limited technology available to me this week, so the graphics and sound won't be up to the usual standards, but I'm going to try and do my best. Starting with a look at the first week using the GFS-based animation. It runs from Wednesday the 23rd. At the outset, high pressure is really dominating things, so it's dry and quite warm during the days, chilly nights still. But then, as we go through the weekend and into the early part of next week, there are signs of a change. What you see there is high pressure becomes centred further to the west and the north. In turn, that allows colder Arctic air to begin pushing southwards across parts of the United Kingdom. There is a good deal of uncertainty about how much of an impact that's going to be having on our weather, but at least this animation suggests that it will be turning colder in the north and the east. The air mass temperature chart here is for Wednesday the 30th, and the blues over Scotland and eastern England show where the cold Arctic air has reached. It's still milder in the west and much of the south at this point. In terms of temperatures then in the short term, 2 metre ones, the ground level, so what we actually experience. This is an example, 15 GMT, Friday the 25th. It's based on the Met Office UKV model. Quite a warm feel to things, maximums around 18 Celsius, perhaps 19 in one or two places. Generally a little bit cooler in the northwest, but even there it's quite a mild picture indeed for the time of year. With clear skies though, the nights remain chilly, potentially ground frost in large parts of the country. 06 GMT, Sunday the 27th being shown here. Once more, it's from the UKV model. Minimums down to 1 to 3 Celsius, just maybe dipping down below freezing point locally. The MOGREPS ensemble for London really supports that view. You can see the high daytime values for the time of the year. The chart here is for London, but the nights remain chilly, and once you get out of the city centres, minimums will be lower than what are being shown here. Towards the end of March, an increasing number of runs are bringing in colder conditions. Going up to Glasgow, it's a very similar profile. Again, mild or even quite warm for the time of the year in the short term through the days. Chilly nights later on. An increasing number of the individual runs are bringing colder conditions from the north. Quick look at rainfall. Now, with high pressure dominating things through the first few days, it's a very dry picture indeed. The chart on the left is generated from the European ECM model, and it's showing aggregate totals for days 0 to 5. 0 millimetres in many places. On the right, it's days 0 to 10. By then, all parts of the UK have seen at least some rain. I think there's uncertainty about the distribution of it to an extent. The equivalent charts from the latest GFS runs are a little bit different, but I think it's just highlighting the likelihood of things turning more changeable through the day 5 to day 10 period. So, do the other deterministic models show a similar scenario unfolding to the GFS? Just to recap, here is the GFS. 00 GMT, Wednesday the 30th. The high pressure is building to the west and the north. That colder air is moving down towards the United Kingdom. It's a relatively similar thing which the Canadian model is going for. There are differences there, but the broad scale pattern is the same. Onto the German icon model. This one is showing a significant cold outbreak with high pressure becoming centred over Greenland. It's a big, strong area of high pressure, and that's really allowing the very cold air to move down across the United Kingdom. Next, the European ECM model. It's quite a similar scenario. The high pressure is centred a little bit further east, closer to the UK, but once more that cold air is beginning to make its presence felt. And in the days which follow, subsequent charts go on to show it turning cold across all areas. Finally, the UK Met Office global model. a little bit different, but again, the broad scale pattern is the same with high pressure to the north and the west. So I think there's good agreement there for the general evolution, but as ever, it's quite difficult to be confident about just how much influence that cold Arctic air is going to be having across the United Kingdom, whether or not we really see a full-on wintry blast or not, perhaps just a glancing blow with the coldest air being shunted away eastwards into continental Europe. That's always a possibility. Well, that was week 1, possibly finishing on quite a cold note with maybe a few wintry showers around in the north and the east, if that evolution was correct, as the GFS showed. But what about week 2? Trends and probabilities, of course, at this range rather than forecast specifics. Starting with the GEFS ensemble plot for London. Across the top, air mass temperatures, and most of the runs at the beginning of the second week are below that thick black line, which is the 30-year average. It's a relatively cold or even cold start to the second week based on this, but there is, as I say, quite a lot of uncertainty about just how cold it will be, because at this time of the year, we really need to be tapping into that deep cold air rather than just being on the edge of it if we are to see wintry conditions, particularly in the southern half of the UK. Later on, though, most of the runs bring back milder conditions. The ensemble mean, which is the thick purple line, climbs above the thick black line. There are still some colder runs in the mix there, but generally it's a warming trend. Across the lower half of the plot, rainfall and spikes appear throughout the second week, but it doesn't look particularly wet. I'd say the rain risk is ongoing, but there should be quite a lot of dry conditions too, dry periods through that time. Will it snow? Well, that's a big question with that cold air moving down across the UK, at least potentially. The snow row across the bottom reaches a maximum of 9 around about the 1st or the 2nd of April. It can go up to 33, so 9 out of 33, quite a low chance of snow, but not out of the question, even in the south. Going up to Glasgow, the air temperature profile, very similar, well below the average through the first few days. Most of the runs then have it turning milder later on. Rain across the bottom, there are more spikes here, and most of them, a lot of them are bigger than the London ones, so a greater chance of rain and a greater chance of significant rain. Also, though, look at the snow row across the bottom there. Values reach 19, and they're up to 13 and 14 and 11 in the days before and after that. So I would suggest here there is a reasonably good chance of snow falling at least. Whether it accumulates, again, at this time of the year, the odds of that happening are significantly lower. It really depends on the timing and whether it snows during the night when temperatures are going to be lower. But I would think any accumulations which do occur will be short-lived and fairly transitory. Looking at the 2 meter temperature data table, this one is for London. Most of the columns early on are made up of light green, that's 68% on Thursday the 31st, 71% on Friday the 1st of April. Light green indicates forecast maximums of between 6 and 10 Celsius. I think it's worth noting, though, at this time of year that if showers come along, those temperatures will tend to fall very quickly, so it could potentially be significantly colder than this at times. Later on, the amount of yellows in the columns increases, 11 to 15 Celsius, highlighting that milder trend which is being indicated towards the end of a 2-week period. Going up to Glasgow, the pattern is a similar one, although at a lower level, as is often the case. Dark greens, 68% to begin with. Those are runs forecasting maximums of between 1 and 5 Celsius. Later on, the light greens become dominant, so the 6 to 10 Celsius runs. That warming trend showing itself here in the north as well, later on towards the end. The surface level pressure data table here for York indicates quite a mixed pattern, really. In the short term, the first week, it's really the oranges which are dominating. Those are high pressure. There's very good support for that, 1,026 to 1,040 millibars. But then as that high pressure migrates westwards and northwards, the amount of green increases in the columns. Those are runs going for between 996 and 1,010 millibars. Later on, there's some blue there. Those are 81 to 995 millibars. I think to summarize this, there's good support for more of a low pressure influence through the second week, as I say, with that high pressure being to the west of the UK rather than slap bang over the top of us as it is in the short term. And looking at the ensemble mean pressure plot for Saturday, April the 2nd, that really supports the idea. At this point, it's low pressure which is really dominating things according to the GEFS. And that general theme is also shown by the European ECM mean surface level pressure plot for the same time. In terms of the day 10 to 15 pressure anomaly chart, that's got the blues over the UK, which is indicating a negative anomaly, so lower pressure than the 30-year average. Again, that's reasonably consistent with that rather changeable or quite an unsettled pattern developing later on. I think if I had to hazard a guess what that's pointing towards, it's the colder air moving down from the Arctic early on in week 2 or towards the end of week 1, but then low pressure spinning up close to the UK, milder air returning, and that more unsettled theme developing. So, to summarize, week 1, through the first few days, it will be dry, sunny, and warm for the time of the year, but the nights remain chilly with patchy frost and fog. The week could finish on a colder note, though, particularly in the north and the east, where the chance of wintry showers increases. Week 2, there is a suggestion that it's going to be a cold start. There could be some wintry showers around. Again, the risk greatest in the north and the east of the UK. Nighttime frost as well, perhaps becoming quite widespread for a time. However, the signal is for it to turn more changeable, unsettled, and less cold later on, with all parts of the UK seeing showers or longer spells of rain. So there we have it. It's a settled start, a relatively warm one for the time of year, then possibly turning a lot colder. As I say, there is a good deal of uncertainty about just how much influence that cold Arctic air will have across the UK, but particularly in the north and the east, there could be some wintry showers around for a time. Then towards the end, it turns more changeable or unsettled and milder. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. I will have the full suite of graphics and technology available again to me very soon, so back to the normal style of presentation. Anyway, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below, and thank you for watching this. Bye now.